Welcome, everyone. So the dreadfully wonderful news is that there's not something else. You could say there's nothing else, but there's not even nothing else. Not in the sense of nothing being somewhere else. And of course, I am is something else. I'm separate. I'm the witness. I'm the observer. I'm the seer. I am the one who is aware. I am the one who is conscious. So as I say, the most wonderfully dreadful news is there is no one to be aware. There is no one who is conscious. There is no one observing. There's no one watching. No one seeing. So when I say there's, the illusion is that there's something else, that's me. I am is the something else. So there's not just what's happening, there's me and what's happening. Me and what's happening to me. Me and what I can see is happening. What I can feel is happening. What I think is happening. Well, isn't it wonderful that everything happens with or without you, whether there's the illusion of it's happening to you or for you? It's just what's happening. And what's happening isn't really known or unknown. It's all there is. So whether you say you know what's happening or you don't know what's happening, it's just what seems to be happening. There's so much made of knowing. And it seems obvious that the reason that so much is made by most human beings about knowing is because I rely on that. If I don't know what's going on, if I don't know what's happening, if I don't know where I am, if I don't know what I'm doing, then what am I? Where am I? Who am I? And self doesn't like that. I like to know the ground that I stand on. And the ground that I stand on is the ground of knowing. But all the knowing is empty. Whether you say you know what's happening or not really has no effect on what's happening or not. It's all for reassurance for me. And I don't know this, but I don't doubt that no one really knows. There is only thinking I know. Not knowing is terrifying for self. And yet, of course, it is the natural way, the natural how this is. And all the knowing is empty. So whether there's knowing or not, the knowing is empty and the not knowing is empty. Everything is empty. And maybe the greatest paradox is that if it's obvious that everything is empty, and by empty I mean not known, other than named, described, and maybe explained, if all of that is empty, the fullness, the everythingness is more, not less. The emptiness is the fullness, and the fullness is the emptiness. And it might sound that anyone who speaks about this has made sense of it, that nothing and everything are not two. But that's not the case. No one makes sense of that because it doesn't make sense. The total paradox. How there's comfort and how there's complete ease in the total paradox, I haven't got a clue. There are some people who would try and explain it to you, but amazingly, it doesn't need any explanation. It's not rational. And as everything is nothing, what's happening isn't happening. And what's happening is all there is. And all there is isn't happening, just seeming to happen. This doesn't help you. This hasn't helped me, other than doing a Zoom on a Thursday, which I quite like doing. This isn't what you want. This can't be what you want because it's not something else. And desire and wanting needing life to be different is always something else. And this is never something else. This can't be something else. There isn't anything else. There can be disappointment because it won't be what you've imagined. All imagination is something else. Of course, this is imagination too. This is not never as bad as you thought it would be, or ever as good. It's just as it is. And this isn't a possibility that I'm speaking of. There are no possibilities. And so probably the worst, what most people say to me is the most negative aspect of this is how there's no hope. There's no next. How could there be hope with nothing to come? And so the label hopeless is placed upon speaking about life as it is. But of course, if there is no hope, there is no hopeless. Hope dies, hopeless dies with it. This is neither hopeful nor hopeless, just as it is, as is.
Tim, if you have a look in the top right, can you see some little squares?
That's so good. I've just found that I couldn't see anybody. I've just found gallery view, and you've all appeared, which is it's good because I just I was doing that introduction. I thought, oh fucking hell, talk to yourself, Tim. Just the same old shit thoughts going around. Speak to yourself. You know how you talk to yourself all day. That isn't going to change. You think you're going to be free from all that internal dialogue? Oh no.
Jazz has their hand up.
That could be. So you know all that internal dialogue where those thought conversations. It's just that you kid yourself that one of those fuckers is you. Yeah, well, I mean, isn't that how it is? So there's that voice. That's not me. I don't like her. She's a bitch. She's always on my case. And then there's the lovely then there's the lovely supportive voice who's probably your favorite teacher. Well, that's not you, but you like her. And then there's the bloke who's always threatening you with it's going to end badly. You know that. But of course, you're the one who's listening to all of those. So what I'm suggesting is there's no listener. There's just the fucking voices. It's wonderfully schizophrenic. But there aren't any selves who don't have a variety of what we might call selves. And none of them are you. So what have you been doing? I'm guessing you did what I did, which was search for your authentic self. My therapist always said there was one. If only I could find him. Now, whether you've been on a spiritual search or a psychological search is pretty much the same, you know, true self, authentic self, pure conscious, you know, the pure one that's genuine, not that sham facade, that charlatan who's just wearing a whole variety of masks. I don't want him. Well, it turns out you take the masks off, you can get, there's no face. No face at all. You don't have a face. That's not to say there can't be a variety of faces. There isn't, but there isn't anyone underneath the personas, if you like, under the mask. It's empty. So the wonder is that this emptiness inside, which you've always dreaded, self dreads the void. I mean, looking into it's bad, but when when it is the void that's looking, so it's not looking into the void and seeing the void, which self feels quite a genuine terror, because where can I stand in the void? There's nowhere for me. If the void is what's looking, that's kind of game over. And yeah, of course it isn't game over. It's your fucking game over, but there is only the game. There's just no players. Right, I don't know where that came from.
Isn't the void always what's looking?
Void's looking.
That's always what's looking, isn't it? I mean, it's not it, but it's always
No,
what's looking.
well, no, it's just that there's no, well,
yeah.
Actually, I would say there's nothing looking, but it's not that nothing's looking. It'd be better to say there's no looking, because that's what seems to have died, the sense that there is someone looking. I don't even consider looking anymore. There's no sense of looking.
Yeah.
You could say there's the appearance of the things that I would have said I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Right? There's no sense of being the looker. So there's no, and without the sense of being the looker, there's no looking.
Yeah.
There's really no seeing. You know how obsessed you are with seeing. I want to see clearly. I want to see the truth. I want to see reality. I don't want to see the, you know, take the veil away, see clearly. I want clarity. I want, you know, all of the spirit, lovely ideas. Well, there's nothing else to be seen. You're not seeing it, but what there is all there is. You're never going to see more or less. It's fucking dreadful. I mean, you're not going to be looking for anything ever again, because there's fuck all to find. I mean, why you're listening to this, I have no idea. I mean, I felt the same when I was listening to it and thinking, why the fuck am I listening to this? It's going to kill all ambition, all hope, and yet it's all I want to say, just to the few who will not only bear to hear it, but long to hear it. I long to hear it. and now I long to tell it. It's an empty story offering nothing. Fuck, it is beautiful though. It's so much more beautiful than stories of hope. And if you look at virtually every story, all it is a story of hope. And hope's shit. All hope does is distract from what there is, because it's saying, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Well, it's all there ever is. So good enough or not good enough. This is completely tough shit. You know, if anybody complains to me now, I don't say tough shit every time, but I always think it. My life is like this. This has happened to me. This is, yeah, life's shit. Life's tough. Shit happens. I wrote a really facetious post last week. I wrote, shit happens. Shits are done, but there is no shitter thereof. Because I have studied a little bit of Buddhism. And you don't have to like, I really like it. Because the whole notion that, okay, if I get this, or if I die, which by the way, if you die, your notion of you dying and you getting this are exactly the same. Have you worked that one out yet? I mean, how shit is that? The whole notion that you could die is exactly the same flip side of exactly the same coin of I could get it. I can't get it, but I'll know when I can't get it. It's just the same hope. Anyway, that's what I do on a Thursday morning. I amuse myself by being disrespectful to the great scriptures of the world. And I getting too much pleasure from doing so. This is, it's funny, there's so much more, there's no love in respect. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but respect and love. You loved your parents much more the more you disrespected them. Or maybe it was just me. Could you treat, if you've got someone on a pedestal, that inequality is it's hope. They're up there. I too could go. I could climb the mountain, and I could see the panoramic view that my master has. No, you couldn't. The view from the top of the mountain is different, but it isn't greater or better. Different views. So what? Right. Jazz.
Hi, Tim.
Hello, Jazz. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
That was fabulous. Oh my God.
I'm all over it today, aren't I?
You are on it. You're on fire. And it was exactly kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. So my
okay.
ears
That's good.
were, well, I was definitely listening to every word you were saying. But so I've been noticing that the same garbage is, saying the same thing. Like it's the whatever you want to call it, the conditioning, the mind, the verbiage in the brain is still happening. Like it doesn't, like, I guess my question is, it doesn't go away. You just know it's like, you just don't believe in it anymore.
Right. No, I think the greatest myth of whatever you want to call the non-appearance of me is that there will be a great change in what appears or how life appears. But the whole message is that you already have no say on how life appears because you're non-existent. If it's obvious you're non-existent, it's not going to be any different. How could it be? You're already non-existent. So this notion of all this is annihilation of all notions of enlightenment, awakening, liberation, any shift, any of it.
You know, what gets me is like the silence, you know. A lot of people talk about there's just silence, but
Yeah.
I don't have silence. The same stories or blah 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 blah. I'm just watching them and like laughing, like and seeing them as just like this tape player, you know, like just blah 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 blah. But there is no silence here. Like I still talk shit to myself. But it's also okay to do that. Like there's no resistance
Right.
to, like, for instance, I have to go into surgery next in 2 weeks.
Oh, good luck.
And thank you. And I haven't for one moment resisted it. Like for one moment said, shit, why the fuck does this have to happen? Oh my God. You know, I can't believe it. You know, it's just been like, I've just been sad and crying, but that's okay too.
Yeah.
There is no resistance to what's happening. And then my brain is wanting to be somewhere else, like saying stories. And I'm just like, oh, like watching that and knowing. I just think that people talk about silence like there's nothing in their mind going on.
Right.
And I wonder, like, do you have more silence now, or
no? No. No,
I
I mean, I even titled my book "This Deafening Silence," like sounding like I've had people say this to me, you know, that I'm promoting meditation, I'm promoting silence, stilling thoughts, but it's quite the opposite. So that really, this deafening silence is all the noise. So
the deafening silence. You're saying the deafening silence is the emptiness behind everything.
it's all the noise,
Yeah,
which is the thoughts,
it's the emptiness of all the noise.
all the stories, all the thoughts, all the emotions, everything we call the fullness of life as a human being, all of it is totally and utterly silent, regardless of all the screaming and shouting, the singing and dancing. So the joy and the sorrow, the love and the hate, the kindness and the generosity and the jealousy and the envy, there is nothing that's excluded. The silence is the total, the total love that is totally empty. So there is no love. There is only love.
Yeah, I understand.
The love that I speak of is complete. The love is everything you don't want as well as everything you've desired, because it's just everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's just all this.
And the stories and the thoughts just got a bad rap, Jazz. I mean, you just listened to lots of spiritual fairy tales that said by magical thinking you could free yourself from all those negative thoughts, all the stories, and they were the inhibition. They were what was inhibiting liberation or enlightenment. But there is nothing that is inhibiting anything. There is no inhibition to this. This is totally freely appearing, exactly as it is, and there is no way to approach it. How would you approach silence? How would you approach emptiness? It's,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
Do you ever buy in to the stories?
It depends what you mean.
sometimes
Depends what you mean by buy-in. Do sometimes I get that? Is there the story running and like there's a running with the story?
yeah.
See, the whole notion that you buy into it. I mean, this again is giving self credit. So I'm powerful. Look, I have this ability, which you fucking don't, by the way. I have this ability to choose. I have this power to go with the story, to buy into it and to run with it, or to reject it. Well, both the story of running with it and rejecting it are just more story. There is only story. Now, what you're looking for, I'm guessing, like I was, which was, what's the truth without the story? What's real without the story? Take the story away. By story, I mean all the thought stories, whether you verbalize them or you write them, you journal and you write them down. Most are just thoughts. There isn't anything without the story, or nothing that you could communicate.
Like I noticed that like I get scared. Like I noticed that I know there's no buying in or whatever, but I noticed that sometimes I'll play along with the story to avoid the silence.
Oh yeah.
Because it like scares me.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, if the story's not here, then what the fuck? Like I'm gonna explode or something, you know? So, but I know that's not true, but there's like this fear. So I kind of like entertain the story.
Yeah.
Just so I won't be alone. Or like, that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm gonna be alone.
Well, yes, there is only alone. That's what I feared most. So when you say that, that really resonates with my story. My story was terror of being alone. Now the wonder is there is no one to be alone. There is there's no one alone. But now here's the kicker, really. There is only alone.
Yeah.
There are no others. So in that sense, I mean, that's the aloneness is complete. So when I talk about wholeness or completeness, I'm really referring to there is nothing outside.
Yeah, I
It's not. Yes, here's the thing. There's nothing inside. So it isn't you alone, because you are the inside. And the aloneness is there are no others. But without you,
there's no outside.
No, there is no possibility of others. So the aloneness has an okayness that for me feels terrifying, but is actually nothing to fear because it is just naturally, this is alone.
Yeah. I just catch myself, you know, if it's not too harsh of a story, if it's a kind of nice story, I kind of stay in the story. So just so I don't have to be alone and face that. Because if it's like scare, it brings so much fear in me, but I know it's just this, but I just catch myself doing that. And then I'm like, you know what? It's even okay to do that. Who cares? But maybe, you know, like I'm not even judging that, like when it does happen, but I don't know if it's not too bad of a story. I'm okay with kind of hanging around with it, you know.
I mean, I'm very happy to tell you that the stories aren't an issue at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of spirituality that makes stories the enemy. You know, they're the problem.
Well, what are we supposed to do? We have to have stories. We live in the world. Like
No.
there's
And the thing is that the only thing that's a problem with stories is that how they relate to me.
yeah, it's like your belief in the
What they
story.
mean to me. So when all stories are essentially empty, my story and your story have the same energetic power. They have the same. You tell me your story, and then I tell you my story, and they're both equally empty, because this is all human beings do. I don't know if you've noticed. All we do, we meet one another, and we tell each other stories about our lives.
Yes.
Now, if we didn't do that, there wouldn't be, well, there'd be no conversations, really. And
It's just the fact that it wouldn't mean as much as it used to anymore. The stories are just light. They're not heavy. They're just blah blah blah.
And the stories are, again, I don't want to labor the love aspect, but when the stories are seen just to be stories, there's more love, not less.
Yeah, I
Because
think I haven't.
it turns out that everyone's personal story is a love story.
Yeah.
That's all they are. No matter how, you know, they're tragic. So some will be more comedic because people like, you know, that's the character. So according to the character, there'll be tragedies or comedies or love stories. But the tragedy and the comedy is all love too. So all the stories, and what we end up with, and I feel the same with music and song, is all we do as human beings is we just sing love songs and tell love stories to each other and to ourselves. So even the most tragic, you know, the self-pitying story that you hear a lot, which you can empathize with for a while, but then you want to run and kill yourself rather than listen to someone's the tragic story of their lives, which is the most common. Now that's the most loving story, amazingly, because that's this self that desperately wants to love itself, but the only way it's found to love itself is by saying how tragic.
Yeah.
And of course, every human being's life is tragic. This is the inability to deny that. This is the inability to deny the sorrow, the sadness, the loss, the aging, the illness, the bodily death. And in the inability to deny all of that physical truth, you could say, all that nature, it again feels like love.
You know, my friends told me, wow, you know, Jazz, we never seen you so vulnerable.
Right.
You know, and I'm crying over my surgery and saying how scared I am, and you know, just water, like tears dropping, like like the most vulnerable I've ever been. Like
Yeah.
just I'm wide open to just get slaughtered, you know, and I'm just crying and and they're like, oh my God, like just not you're a tough one, you know, you're the one that's always like, I'm good. And I'm like, no, I'm not good. And I need help. And um I never ask for help kind of person. And I'm asking everyone for help now. And and I'm not even ashamed of it. I'm not even embarrassed of it. I'm not even like, before it would be like, oh, I feel so stupid for doing that or acting like that or showing my weakness, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's all out. Just, and I feel like obviously the surgery is happening for a reason, just to pop me open, you know. But it's just such a different experience to, I'm crying more than ever. I don't know. I just like, you're more human. I always thought that you're somehow going to be untouched by this whole process, and you're going to be emotionless less, like not have emotions and be
Yeah.
stronger. And it's like, dude, I am more vulnerable, more weak, more crying, more sad, more yelling, more like more everything than I. This sucks. This really.
That's beautiful, Jess.
Oh, you think it's beautiful, but it's a lot. The vulnerability is a
No.
damn.
Well, yeah, there is
But
a nakedness, because I've described self as a suit of armor quite often. That's the sense that I had of myself, that it was what protected me.
yeah,
And so, yeah, vulnerability is inevitable.
gosh. Okay, I am taking too much time, but Jim,
Oh, that's
I'm
lovely. Thanks, Jess.
so thankful. Thank you so much. What a beautiful message, and thanks for your help right now. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's lovely. Thanks, Jess. Thanks for being so vulnerable.
Thank you.
I was just thinking as well, in a way, I mean, in a way as well, it's sort of like the end of vulnerability in a sense,
Yeah.
because when there's no fear of vulnerability,
Yeah.
there just isn't vulnerability
Well,
anymore.
the wonder is that vulnerability isn't a problem.
Yeah.
It's the fear of vulnerability, as you
Yeah.
just, and so the suffering, the pain is the trying to protect yourself from being hurt.
Yeah.
And
then the humanness is just the expression of it.
yeah, I mean, I always thought that sadness would kill me.
Yeah.
Turns out that sadness doesn't kill you. And most incredibly, that sadness, sorrow, grief, the things that we most selves are afraid of, are the most beautiful expressions of love. And just the most obvious as well. Undeniably love. Sorrow is so clearly love, even more clearly than joy. And of course, the more sorrow you feel, the more joy you'll feel, or will be felt. Because most selves protect themselves from joy just as powerfully as they do sorrow. Too much joy will kill me as well. Well, I'm not worthy, am I? I'm not worthy of happiness, of joy. I need to, if I haven't earned it, then I have to run like hell from it, because I'm not deserving of it. Well, thanks for that, Jazz. That was lovely. Razia. Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
I loved your introduction. It was powerful. You could feel that.
Thank you.
And I liked Jazz's vulnerability, because it's such an attractive quality to be so open, and I think that's so awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, and I also find humility. That's so, it's hard to find. But yeah, and she was talking about thoughts, and I thought about something that I wanted to share. I know when I first started this whole searching thing, or not searching, I didn't start searching, I wasn't searching, but when I experienced the shift, this lady said to me that you must watch your thoughts, words, and actions, you know? And I mean, obviously, to silence the mind was the itch thing at that time, you know? You had to silence the mind. So the thoughts, I mean, the words and actions was easy. I mean, I could talk sweetly and lovingly. My actions, I could control that. I mean, you know, it was easy. Now the thought part was really hard. Like, how do you control your thoughts? So I used to listen to myself thinking, and I would correct my thoughts. I would correct each thought that arose, and it became like a thing now. I mean, you were correcting every thought. And if you had like a bad thought, now you had to change that bad thought to something positive and good.
Yeah.
Because somehow your thoughts were going to influence the entire universe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, then thank God, I gradually started to realize that there was this silence. I mean, obviously, there was this thoughtless awareness, but it didn't last long. It was like when you were talking, right? And you spoke about the stillness. I could feel that silence. For that moment, it was just still. It was absolutely silent. There's nothing there, but it comes back again. So all that's there is this sublime key essence at the center, at the core of who we are. And the roof brain chatter goes on. Whether we believe that story that it's wanting us to believe or not believe, it's up to us. I mean, I don't know if we don't have a choice. But it continues. And sometimes you get dragged into the story, and why not? You are here to play that role, you know? So happily, I would go into a story and carry on when my daughter talks about stuff and we talk, and it's normal. There's nothing, I don't know. Maybe other people who are advanced spiritually can control their thoughts. I know, like, I was listening to Satguru once, and he said, oh, there's no thoughts here at all. And in a way, he's right, because the thoughts are not ours, you know?
If anyone,
We can't take ownership of the thoughts. Yeah.
if anyone said to me that they had no thought or there were no thoughts here at all, I would laugh out loud.
Yeah, that's why I also felt like that. But then I thought, but at deeper level, if you think about it, we can't take ownership of thought too, you know? So, but thanks, yeah. And it was so amazing. Thank you.
Thanks,
I love
Razia.
you.
Thanks, Razia.
David's got his hand up.
David.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, David.
Wow. You know, so much of the story of me is tied up in what's called possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the greatest diversion from reality, because reality is reality. What's here is what's here. There are no possibilities, you know. Of course, possibilities is all tied up with the idea of choice. And choice is really one of the main ingredients of the me, of the self. So when that goes, if the self is gone, then there are no possibilities. It's just what is. And then by not having any thought for any other possibility, we come to the place maybe where we see what is. Otherwise, we can't see it. All we see is what we think might happen, you know, and or could happen or should happen.
Yeah.
So that living in that space of choice and possibility, the me, the self, becomes very, very, very strong, because that becomes the pivotal point from which I can do anything I want to do, you know.
Yeah.
So it becomes a trap within a trap, a dog chasing its tail. The liberation from the me is for no one. Thank goodness. That's a joy. It's a joy to know, to realize, and not to, but it's not a joy for me because there's no me. It's just a joy.
Well, the thing is, I'm almost loath to say it's a joy, because of course it is what it is, and so it's a sorrow.
It's just what it is. Yes.
It's a sorrow. It's a joy.
And
it's a pain in the ass. It's that just however it is. So here's the thing. I just think this is the hook that just virtually keeps everyone in, is that when it happens, not to me, to no one, but when it happens to no one, I'll be there to know it. Now, I know I won't be there, but there'll have to be something there.
No.
And then I'll recognize it. And then there'll be well, even if I'm not aware of it, there will be awareness of it. And I can tell all kinds of beautiful stories of awareness, aware of being aware, or other such shit.
Yeah.
I mean, self will take anything as long as I'll know that I've arrived. So there will be some arrival, and there must be some knowledge of arrival. Otherwise, how the fuck will I know I've arrived? Or how will there be well, what's the fucking point? If I'm not going to know it when I'm there, what? Well, that's the point. There's no point. There is no arrival. There will be. It's utterly, just devastatingly, ridiculously pointless, meaningless, hopeless, useless. So this is of no use to you whatsoever. That's why it's a message of love. Now, if this was of use to you and you could attain it, and I mean the know you as well as the you, whatever you've envisaged will be, when you're gone, what you've fantasized will be in its place. And you, by the way, self can't help but do that shit.
I'm gone already. I'm gone.
If you tell me, any of you tell me that you haven't fantasized about what it would be like without me, I'm not going to believe you, because I spent 10 years pretty much, that's all I did.
Yeah.
And now I don't fantasize about how it could be at all, other than maybe, I wonder how I'll strike the ball off the tee at golf tomorrow, and I wonder when I'll next see my lover, and I wonder what I've got for dinner tomorrow. That kind of wondering, but not how will it be for me when I'm enlightened, liberated. The other side of the shift. Well, there isn't another side. There isn't a shift. Nothing shifts. This is nothing. Appearing is everything.
Yeah.
A shift is just as empty as any other shit that might happen. So I'm not saying it couldn't appear that there's been a shift. I'm saying big deal. What would that be?
Just chapter 1, chapter 2 of the, story, and
yeah,
I'm happy to tell my story, but it's not my story. It just happens to be the story that I'm pretty much have to tell.
Yeah, and of course this is always this. So we don't have anything without the story, as I've said. There's no problem with the story, but this is always the beginning of the story.
Yeah,
and this is always the end of the story.
Always.
There is only beginning and ending. There is nothing. It's the in-between that's the illusion. So, and that is where you live. In fact, that's the only place you can possibly exist.
Yeah, right.
The only place I can exist is in this illusory space between beginning and ending? Well, there is only beginning and only ending. They're not two. There is no space between where you can live.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean to say we can't tell stories about the space between. Without the space between, there aren't any stories.
Yeah, there's no space between. There's no gap.
No.
Mind the gap? Hey, there's no gap.
No, but without the thing about it, without the gap, the stories remain, but you don't, because it's just a story. So when you are a story, I mean, you're not going, you're just not as bothered about your pathetic little self as the rest of your shit life has been.
Yeah.
No, I know I'm exaggerating, but I can't help it, because I'm only referring to my own self when I speak like that. But you know what I mean. It's the story remains, and you know that without the story, I mean, we're left with nothing. So stop worrying about your story.
But it's kind of convenient having communication and words.
Well, there wouldn't be any. Yeah, I mean, we. Well, I just think it's wonderful. I mean, most dogs just have to be content with sniffing another dog's ass, and isn't it lovely that we get to speak to each other as well as that?
It's wonderful to see each other.
Yeah. And we're incredibly fortunate.
Yeah.
But we are cursed with this. The curse, it seems, is this curse of self. And of course, self is totally self-absorbed. So you can't actually see the wood for the trees because you're in, you know, it's not that you're going to see life differently without you. Life will appear exactly as it appears.
Yeah.
Eyes work as eyes work. Ears work as ears work. And the character is what you've called yourself is a character. Well, the character is liberated. You're the pain in the ass that's making the character's life miserable. Thinking you're important and you have to make something of yourself. There's nothing to be made of you, literally.
Yeah.
You know, make something of your life. Well, there's nothing to be made. How wonderful. Then, of course, there's freedom to make whatever. It makes no difference.
Oh, boy.
And it's beautiful.
And I was thinking about what you were saying earlier, David, as well, about no possibilities. And it's like you know, or you could say there's only one possibility, but then that's not a possibility because there would need to be other possibilities for it to be a possibility. So
yes. No, there isn't one.
It's just stories of possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks, David. That was lovely.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Has anybody else got anything they'd like to ask or share?
Yeah, hi guys. So it's just story after story after story after story. And that's the suffering as well. Which is another story. And we don't have to take them seriously, right? But there's no one to take them seriously. I'm just trying to digest this great meeting, and this is what I'm getting from it. Not really a question.
Oh no, thanks, Andrew. No,
Cheers.
I think the crux of what I've been saying today is that the stories aren't the problem, whereas self makes stories the problem. And if only I could be free of the stories, whereas it's the stories that could be liberated from you. Because the stories liberated are all empty, all light, no matter how tragic, no matter how horrific. Stories are stories. And of course, stories, when they're stories, we all love stories, don't we? The problem is my story. what does this story say about me? That's where the suffering is.
And it's worse when it's an unconscious story, because
yeah. Well, that's why therapy can be really valuable, because terribly painful, but the therapeutic, what we call therapeutic, is bringing to light unconscious stories that are running self's life, seemingly, because self will hide from the stories that it doesn't want to see, because what it says, if I look at this story, then it will kill me. It's too much. Self often thinks stories are too much for it to bear, whereas actually it's just a story. And that's not that it wouldn't be painful. But there's the other thing, of course, self tries to avoid pain. It's very pain avoidant. Whereas what we call pain, emotional pain, it's all love. Especially the thing that self avoids most, which is sadness and sorrow, loss, the pain of loss. Well, there is, in the story, there is only loss. Every story is a story of loss. So it's a finding and a losing. That's the story. Every story goes that way. So what we're talking about is not looking for a happy ending. There won't be a knight on a white charger coming to save you, like I dreamt of. There won't be, whatever you fantasized. I mean,
could feel
the great liberation, Andrew, is that nothing is going to happen.
Yeah, I can feel some terror in my chest, because
Right.
there's nowhere to go. If I can't go into the story, I have nowhere to go.
No.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there's no problem with going into the story. It's all inevitable.
That's good.
That's good. I wouldn't advise you not to do that any more than I would to do it.
Good.
That's what I was trying to say, like Andrew, is that I kind of play the story because of that terror, because there's nowhere to go. Like, I just want to tell you, I understand you.
Yeah. This story's okay, Andrew. Really, is what I want to say.
That's kind of annoying now, because I almost want to be triggered by this message.
Of course you do. Well, if you're triggered, Andrew, you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is, well, I didn't really feel anything. Oh, what? Fucking not getting anywhere.
Ollie, I can't hear you.
Absolutely. No resonance must be a lack of progress. Yeah. Well, there isn't any progress. How wonderful. Bloody hell, this is the death of politics, I'll tell you that. Having just had a general election. Oh dear, I used to be so interested. Bit sad, really. Something else to mourn the loss of, interest in politics.
I was thinking about what a few people were saying earlier, and how everyone mostly asks questions like, how is it different, or how will it be different, or is it look different, but it's everything that you take to be yours, or you claim as yours, somehow just automatically claimed, like the stories or everything like that. It never was yours, so nothing changes.
No, because you're expecting it will feel dramatically different, but no, because it just wasn't in the first place.
No. But a bit more like going back to the deafening silence at the beginning, it does seem more spacious, as if almost, I remember thinking once, it was almost like half of everything was missing, but the half that was missing was nothing. But that half didn't make everything a whole. It's just not two. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's how I, yeah.
Well,
So-
I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's a good description, more spacious. Because I said there's no space between beginning and ending. But there's no space between because there's only space. So you can't have space between space. There's no in between one space and another. There aren't two spaces. Other. Now, you don't know that there's not one space either. Here's the thing. So I don't talk about oneness. The reason I don't talk about oneness is emptiness can't be one. No. It can be wholly empty. So I say wholeness, I can just about, I mean, the words don't matter, but I sort of play with them and I like them. And wholly empty, completely empty feels okay to say. But oneness doesn't, because it sounds like, well, I know what it sounds like to me. Brought up a Christian, it sounds like God. But then I was always confused about the three, you know. Three gods in one. I always, oh God, I used to so struggle with all of that. What are we doing teaching children that? I have no idea.
It's a bit crazy, right? It's almost like insanity. Well, it's not.
I mean, I get accused of insanity. That's no. This is really sane compared with that. Well, lovely to see you all. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks.
I enjoyed myself. Lovely to see you all. Pleasure. Lovely. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, Tim.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Thank
Tim.
you, Tim.
Yes.